They thought they could scare them out, force them to leave the neighborhood they rightfully called home. A black family, new to the block, suddenly found themselves under constant attack, nasty letters, bogus fines, and endless threats from the HOA. But what the board didn't know was that this family wasn't just like any other, because the wife, calm, quiet, and underestimated, was no ordinary neighbor. She was a decorated Navy officer, and when they pushed too far, she showed up in uniform. What happened next stunned the entire community and changed the fight forever. For Marcus and Alana Johnson, moving into their suburban home felt like a dream finally achieved. Years of saving, long shifts, and sacrifices had led them to this moment. A quiet street with trimmed lawns, children playing outside, and the kind of peace they thought their family deserved. Marcus, an IT specialist, worked long hours to provide stability, while Alana balanced being a mother and pursuing her demanding career in the Navy. At first, life seemed almost normal. Their young children rode bikes on the sidewalk. Alana tended to the garden on weekends, and Marcus often waved to neighbors during his morning jogs. But beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect community, trouble was waiting. It started small, a note about improper trash placement, a warning about the color of their shutters. Then, within weeks, came threats of fines for parking in their own driveway. Each notice, each letter, carried an unspoken message. You don't belong here. Marcus brushed it off at first. They're just strict, he told himself. But Alana knew better. She'd seen the looks, the hushed whispers, when she walked past. Something deeper was at play, and soon enough, the HOA's pressure became impossible to ignore. Little did they know, the harassment was about to escalate into a full-blown battle, one that would test not only their patience, but their very right to live where they had worked so hard to be. The letters turned into visits. Members of the HOA began showing up unannounced, clipboards in hand, circling the house like vultures. They documented every minor thing, grass height, garden tools left out, even the kids' chalk drawings on the sidewalk. Then came the meeting. Marcus received an official notice, demanding his family attend a compliance review. When they walked into the HOA clubhouse, they were met with a cold, tense silence. A group of board members sat at the front, their eyes sharp, papers stacked in front of them. They listed violations one by one. A toy left in the yard, curtains they claimed weren't neutral enough, a supposed noise complaint about laughter during a family barbecue. Every reason felt petty, contrived, and painfully obvious. It wasn't about the rules. It was about who they were. Finally, the head of the HOA leaned forward, his voice flat and deliberate. This neighborhood has certain standards. Perhaps it's not the best fit for your family. Marcus's chest tightened. The meaning was clear. They wanted them gone. The days that followed felt like warfare. Anonymous complaints arrived weekly. Cars slowed in front of their house. Strangers snapping photos. A petition began circulating, demanding their removal. And yet, through it all, Marcus tried to shield the children from the stress, telling them everything would be fine. But Alana felt the weight differently. She had faced battles abroad, but never expected to fight one in her own front yard. She stayed quiet at first, hoping restraint would prove their dignity. But when a letter arrived threatening legal action to forcefully remove them for noncompliance, something inside her shifted. She wasn't just a wife or mother. She was a soldier, a leader, someone trained to stand firm against intimidation. And if the HOA wanted a fight, they were about to get one. The night of the final HOA hearing arrived, a meeting that would decide whether Marcus and Alana's family would be fined into submission, or worse, evicted. Neighbors gathered in the clubhouse, some curious, some silently rooting for the couple, and others waiting to watch them fail. Marcus sat at the table, his jaw tight, his patience thinning. The board began rattling off more supposed violations, their tone smug and condescending. Then, just as the pressure built, the door swung open. Alana walked in, but this time, she wasn't in jeans and a t-shirt. She was in her full Navy uniform, badges polished, posture perfect, presence commanding. The room fell silent. Every eye turned toward her, and suddenly, The board's arrogance cracked. She stepped forward, her voice steady but powerful. She reminded them of her service, of the years she spent defending the very freedoms they were now trying to strip away. She laid out evidence, photos, documents, proof that every violation was fabricated or exaggerated. And she didn't stop there. She exposed how the rules had been selectively enforced, targeting only her family, while others were left untouched. The tension in the room was electric. Board members shifted in their seats, their confidence evaporating as Alana dismantled their claims one by one. Some neighbors, emboldened, began whispering support. A few even stood, nodding in agreement. By the time Alana finished, her final words cut through the silence like a blade. "You can't erase us. We belong here, and we're not leaving." The board had no response. For the first time, the power was no longer in their hands. The HOA backed down. They had no choice. The evidence was undeniable, the public pressure too great. What was meant to be a quiet removal had turned into a public humiliation. And while Marcus and Alana were cleared of all supposed violations, the scars of the battle remained. Neighbors began to see the truth. Some who had stayed silent now spoke up, admitting they'd watched the injustice unfold and done nothing. Others approached the Johnsons with apologies, even admiration. The sight of Alana standing tall in her uniform, fighting not just for her family but for justice itself, left an impression that could not be erased. For Marcus and Alana, victory was more than just keeping their home. It was reclaiming their dignity. It was proving that they could not be silenced, no matter how hard the world tried. But the larger truth lingered. How many other families, without the strength, the resources, or the platform, had been forced out quietly? How many battles, like theirs, never made it to the light? Their story became more than a neighborhood dispute. It became a reminder of resilience, of the strength it takes to stand up against deeply rooted prejudice. And as we reflect on their fight, one question remains. How many more times will families have to prove they belong before the world finally changes? If this story moved you, don't just click away. Share your thoughts below, because conversations like these matter. And if you believe in stories that expose the truth and highlight the courage to resist injustice, make sure to like, subscribe, and join this community. Together, we can shine a light where others try to cast shadows.